back to Evo India. Earlier today, we dropped our full review on the XEV 9e, and now the embargo has lifted on the B6e, BE6e. Again, confusing name, but that's the only real drawback to the BE6e, because I think this is phenomenal. In my personal opinion, and I would love to hear what your opinion is, but I think the styling of the BE6e just knocks it out of the park. Earlier today, while we were driving to the Mahindra SUV proving track, this is around 2 hours outside of Chennai, in proper Chennai traffic, on the highways, this entire fleet of SUVs on the road, the BE6e looks like nothing else. This looks so futuristic, so cutting edge. It looks phenomenal. Really, there is nothing that I can criticize. Big 20-inch wheels, excellent stance and proportions, very short overhangs, a Ferrari-like S-duct kind of aero thing out here. Small, compact, nimble, and the handling. It really complements the styling. This looks sporty and it also drives in a very sporty fashion. Now, before we start our full review, we're going to go head out to meet Pratap Bose and get his thoughts on what went into the designing and the styling of the BE6e. Then we're going to hit the handling track, we're going to hit the high-speed track. There is a lot to pack into this episode, so make sure you stay subscribed to the Evo India channel, hit that bell icon to stay notified for all our video drops. And if you like the way the BE6e looks, if you think this looks sexy, give us a thumbs up. Pratap, talk us through the design of the BE6e.
It's B6E.
It's B6e, okay.
No, thank you, Sirish, for having me. It's always a pleasure. Well, where do I start with the B6e? Let's start from the front.
Yep.
You know, we wanted to create almost like a digital appliance, like a phone. Of course, now the DRLs are on, but when you switch them off, the entire face goes dark. And we call it, you know, sort of hidden till lit technology. We also light up the logo, which gives you this sensation that it's an EV. You know, it has to look like an EV from the first glance. There's nothing else like this in the world. So you can also see this very sharply sloping bonnet, which then opens up into this scoop that creates this aerodynamic bridge, which we call the aero bridge. It keeps the air attached over the hood, into the glass, over the roof, and out the back. When you swing around, of course, these massive, you know, not this particular car, but we have packaged 20-inch wheels. These wheel arches, the ground clearance after that, a very, very sharp approach angle. We are, of course, SUV makers in the end of the day. This really strong cladding on the side, again, splits the body, makes it look even sleeker and longer. It's just a 4.3 meter long car, but it looks much bigger than that. Again, then when you come around the back, you have those same hidden till lit lamps. We also have a little bit of a digital pattern here, a pixelated digital pattern, which I'm sure you'll see. The trunk is huge. And then here you can see again the two aero spoilers, these floating aerodynamic spoilers. And then, of course, again, that promise of off-road, or let's say off-road ability, if you need to, with those guards at the bottom. So this, in very few words, is actually the exterior of the B6e. The new Unlimit logo, it's a combination of our sort of M for Mahindra, but it brings in sort of new energy, a racing spirit. It's a circularity. You know, there's fabric in this car, which is 50% recycled PET bottles, you know, the bottles that you throw away for water or your drinks. That fabric is 50%, you know, using that PET material. It's the first time we've done that in India for automotive. So the whole story of circularity, of energy, of the racetrack, it's all here in our new Unlimit logo. It is the most aerodynamic Mahindra we've done. Lots of features are actually optimized for aero. This was designed with our aerodynamics engineers in a wind tunnel, both digital and real, to create lots of small aerodynamic touches, which make this a very slippery car to, you know, on the road.
And Pratap, finally, this car is not done just for India. It is done for the world. Was there a certain vision for that aspect?
Look, I think the world is in India already. You know, in all parts of business and in life, indeed, we see, you know, India has access to the best anywhere. So we created what we feel is the best product in India or overseas. There is literally nothing like this. We are very, very proud to have done this, and it truly is that, you know, sort of unlimited India. We are showing it in that world. But the bigger story is unlimited love. You know, when you see this, you'll want it. Lots of petrol head.
So we have to turn ourselves into spark heads.
Lots of petrol heads. You know, Sirish said that it's impossible to fall in love with an EV. And I think through the 6E and the 9E, we are proving that it is indeed possible to fall in love. So, yeah.
Thanks, Pratap. All the best. And I doff my hat. If I were wearing a hat, I would doff my hat at you guys, your design team, for creating something like this. We drove in from here through Chennai, seeing 40, 50 of these on the road. Unbelievable. It doesn't look like anything on the road.
On the road.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're heading out on the handling track at the Mahindra proving track outside of Chennai. Now we are in the BE 6E. Earlier in the day we were in the XEV 9E. And the immediate difference is that the BE feels tighter. It is a little stiffer, and that has been done to align with that whole theme of the BE being the sportier of the two electric siblings, and it definitely feels sportier. The steering, now I didn't talk too much about the steering on the XEV, I left it for the BE, and the impressive part is not the feel or feedback, because it is very lifeless like any other electric car, but this is so direct. That steering ratio has been done so well, and this is a variable steering ratio. I think this is the first time any Indian manufacturer has done a variable steering ratio. So it has agility, it has very good maneuverability, and around these tight bends, the S bends, the direction changes are extremely good. This, remember, is an electric car. This is a heavy electric car. So obviously you will have that sense of weight. That is clearly evident in the 9E. But in the 6E, it doesn't do that heaving over undulating roads. And on this handling track, it handles precisely, so sharp, and it is a little bit more playful than the 9E. So in the GoPro shots, you can see that the tail is stepping out a bit. Now, obviously, God of Gill, he did those monster drifts in it. For that, you really have to be aggressive with the car, and you have to pull out all the fuses so that none of the electronic stability aids kick in. As standard, you're not going to be able to drift it, but this is rear wheel drive, and it uses that rear wheel drive setup to great advantage, because this does feel agile, responsive, entertaining even. And with 282 bhp, you have the power on tap to play with it. This feels quick, that immediacy is there, obviously, because you have instant torque and instant responses. Also, the steering wheel, flat at the bottom, flat on top, feels sort of like a race car steering wheel. Also, it is a little smaller than the 9E. The seats are smaller, they have a little better bolstering. Actually, you sit really nice and low in the 6E. Unlike other electric cars where you're sitting like right on top, there you're sitting within the car. Doesn't feel like it's got a high floor. None of that nonsense. It's damn nice. The steering is also something that Gaurav Gill praised a lot when he spoke about the 6E. And it's a fact, he's not a guy who will just say things like that. He knows his stuff, and you can sense all of that in the 6E. If the 9E is, say, out of 10, 7 out of 10, this is 9 out of 10. This is significantly different to the 9E to drive, and if you are for sporty bent, this definitely should be your pick. But it is smaller. Also, in terms of the width, it is narrower, and I think that also the proportions of the car, it's more four square, and that's what aids the agility, not just the slightly stiffer dampers. And don't get me wrong, these stiffer dampers don't mean that the ride is stiff. On the road, it's actually very comfortable. I wouldn't complain about the ride quality on the 6E as much as I wouldn't complain about the ride quality on the 9E. In fact, this doesn't have that heave-ho of heavy electric cars. Overall, this is my pick. Mahindra have been making these huge steps up in terms of dynamic abilities of their SUVs, and this really takes it one step forward. What a job. What a job. We know the XEV does little bit above 200 kilometers per hour, 202 kilometers per hour on the cluster at the high-speed track. What can the BE6E do? The only difference is that this has smaller 19-inch wheels compared to the 20s on the XEV. What can it do? Let's find out. 6E on the high-speed track at MSPT, and it does 202 kilometers per hour on the speedo. This is a quick car. 200 kilometers per hour is no joke. And at 200 kilometers per hour, you can feel the G-forces on the banking sucking the car down. You really can feel the impact on your body. But the car, it stays true, it stays stable, it doesn't do anything funny. Even the steering wheel, there are no vibrations. This is at top speed, there are no vibrations. There's actually not that much wind roar. There is wind roar, but considering we are doing top speed, 200 kilometers per hour, it is not deafening wind roar. Obviously, there is no engine noises to drown out everything else. And on this sharp banking, remember, this track doesn't have as big or wide a banking as the NAT track, so you really feel the G-forces. 200 kilometers per hour is like, pushing it at this track, but this car stays true, stays stable. I guess here's where you can also try out the adaptive cruise control, where it switches lanes automatically if you look into that lane and tap the indicator, because it's all nicely marked out. But the performance of the car, the stability, the sheer ability of the 6E. Now the 6E is running 19-inch wheels compared to the 20s on the 9E. That also makes a slight difference in terms of the dynamics. So in terms of outright grip at the handling track, the 9E felt slightly grippier. This was more playful. And of course, the 6E has less body roll compared to the 9E. So dynamically, this is actually very well sorted, and sheer ability. I can't stop talking about ability, but sheer ability of this thing. Deeply impressive, Mahindra, deeply impressive. The interiors of the BE6E are, in a word, spectacular. This is unlike anything we've seen from any Indian manufacturer. Now, it's got this bridge that separates the driver from the passenger. This is kind of similar to what Ferrari have done with the F80. F80, they have this whole theme of being a single-seater with the passenger being like sort of stuck on over there. This also gives you this sense of being in a single-seater enveloping around you. The screen, this does not envelope around you, and this only has two screens. Unlike the 9E, which has got that 3-screen coast-to-coast layout, this has got only 2 screens. That's why this is slightly more affordable than the 9E. Now, this bridge, obviously this top is plastic. You have a little bit of this fabric kind of finish. I'm not a fan of this olive green fabric or leatherette or whatever that is. And the quality, like to the touch, is not all that great. Also, the panel gaps, this needs a bit of sorting out. The tactile feel also needs a bit of sorting out, especially tactile feel on the steering wheel. In terms of the design, the steering wheel, it looks really good. Flat bottom, flat on the top, sort of like a race steering wheel. Honestly, it gives you an impression of being in a race car holding a race steering wheel. This is the new design, 2-spoke design, illuminated logo in the center, BE, Born Electric, but they're not talking about Born Electric anymore. It's got these 2 wings on the top. This is to adjust the regeneration, but it doesn't have a good tactile feel. And at the bottom, the left one is for the 1-pedal mode, the right one is for the boost mode. If you want to change the driving modes, that has got a different controller over here. But before I talk about that, this has got wireless CarPlay. And it's working! Unlike the Thar Rocks, unlike the XUV 700, unlike the Scorpio N, CarPlay is working. Final certification still has to be done, but it is working. And that gives us an opportunity to discover that when CarPlay is active, your temperature controls, which remain over here when CarPlay is not active, that gets hidden because CarPlay uses the entire width of the screen. So then to adjust your temperature, you have to press this fan button over here. Then you go to the temperature controls, and this is not very intuitive, nor does it work very well. So you're reducing the temperature, but that display is gone. So again you press it, again you tap the temperature, again you tap slightly off, again it goes. So it actually is very irritating, and that needs to be sorted out. The gear lever, Pratap Bose calls this the thruster. It is aircraft inspired, but I think in terms of the operation, again, the tactile feel should have been a little better. You can adjust the regen modes on the gear lever also. That is a good touch. Equally aircraft inspired is this panel on the roof. So that has your door lock, unlock, the tailgate opening, the hazards, the automatic parking, and the selfie camera. And that camera is over here. So you can do Zoom calls. Also, this camera, one on the inside, 5 on the outside, they are linked to the app on your phone. So if somebody comes to fool around with your car when it is parked, it will sound out a warning. Also, the cameras will come on so you can see what is happening around your car. That is an added layer of safety on these vehicles. So they've used all the tech. They've seen what everybody around the world are doing, and they've baked it into the 6E at this great price, which is what? It is phenomenal, is it not? Let me know what you think in the comments. It's got this joystick controller for your center infotainment screen, and you can do a lot of stuff on this. Ambient lighting, 256 different colors. You can change the colors in the panoramic sunroof. So it gives you this great ambience at night. I like the fabric that has been used. Pratap spoke about this being used from PET bottles, recycled fabric. It is very nice, but the center is still leatherette. These are cool seats. I would have preferred this fabric to be across on the center as well. And what I really love, really love, are these pull type door handles. This is like a Porsche GT3 RS, crazy cool. The plastics used over here, the pattern, that sort of brings to mind the carbon fiber that Lamborghini uses, the raw carbon fiber. I think the pattern has been inspired from that. Harman Kardon sound system, 16 speakers, sounds incredible. Your key, this is a new design for the key, and using the key, you can actually move the car in and out of parking spots. You can auto park in tight parking spots, all using the key while being outside. And on the 6E, there is a nice magnetic slot for the key, so it is not flying around anywhere. You have 2 wireless charging pads, you have 2 USB-C chargers, we have all the space under the center console. So very practical, very usable, but it feels slightly coupé, and that is to give it that whole sporty vibe. As for the rear seat space, let's talk about that now. So in the 6E, you have to duck your head much more than the 9E because of this sloping roofline. Now, stuck in at the back, I'm surprised why the 6E has slightly less knee room than the 9E, because the wheelbase is the same, 2775 mm, but you have less knee room in the 6E. The seats are different on the 6E, very cool looking seats with these sort of wraparound wings on the headrest. Gives it a little bit of a motorsport vibe. I didn't know Pratap Bose was a motorsport fan, but a lot of motorsport cues in this, or maybe somebody in his team is a motorsport fan. I like it. It's got the same provision to connect the screens at the rear. Your USB-C slots are in the seat itself. The vents, now this is overly designed, and this is going to collect a lot of dust. For India, not very practical. Pratap said that the width is the same, but this doesn't feel as wide as the 9E. Or maybe it is done on purpose so that luxury-oriented buyers, people who want to sit at the back, will opt for the 9E. More of the drivers will opt for the 6E. But there is a clear difference between these two SUVs. It's not like one is longer, one is shorter, and that's it. Inside, it looks completely different. Outside, it looks completely different. And to drive, well, the 6E is a little tighter, is a little bit more agile, a little bit more playful, and a little bit more fun. Also, 1/10 of a second quicker to 100 kilometers per hour. Ooh, I didn't talk about the headroom. It is barely adequate. I'm 5'9", just about adequate. 5'11", I don't think you will be able to fit in here. We spent the entire review of the BE6E and not even once have we mentioned the range. Haven't forgotten, the range is 550 kilometers on the WLTP cycle. Now, how does that compare with the 9E? The 9E does 533 kilometers, so around 20 kilometers more this will give you. It gives you 1/10 of a second quicker 0 to 100 acceleration times. Both have a solid 200 kilometers per hour top speed, and the 6E is 3 lakh rupees cheaper than the 9E. Now that is for the pack 1 because we don't have prices of the other packs. That will be rolled out closer to the market introduction, which will be in the first half of next year. But this is my pick amongst the two. Obviously, if you're going to be chauffeur driven, this is not sensible because the back does feel a little claustrophobic, but this is nicer to drive. This is so much cooler, both on the outside and especially so on the inside. It's got so many features. I just hope Mahindra get their software completely sorted out before this goes to market, that there are no niggles when customers get their hands on it. If they sort that out, I don't see a single reason why people wouldn't move towards electric vehicles. I understand that there is a lot of negativity around electric cars. Also, the whole question about resale value after 3 years or 5 years when you go to sell your electric car, what will that be? That is another question. But also, on both the XEV 9E and the BE6E, you have an unlimited mileage warranty on the battery pack. So you have a lifetime warranty, not 8 years or 10 years or 12 years, lifetime warranty on the battery pack. Mahindra have done everything. I think electric vehicles, now it will start moving. Really, I don't see any reason why you would not want to buy something like this unless you have lots of long distance commuting. But even then, it's fine, 20 to 80% in 20 minutes flat. So you have range, you have performance, you have everything. Give me one reason why you should not buy an electric car apart from the noise. Let me know in the comments, and I hope you've enjoyed both our videos on Mahindra's electric cars. If you have any more comments, obviously let us know in the comment section below and we will respond to you. Thank you once again for watching.